The perfect life shatters. Elena Martinez stood in her art gallery, watching the sunset paint Chicago's skyline in shades of gold and crimson. At 32, she had everything she had dreamed of since childhood. The Rivera Gallery was her pride and joy, featuring works from emerging artists across the country. Her engagement ring caught the fading light, a 3-carat diamond that Marcus had presented to her 6 months ago at their favorite rooftop restaurant. Life felt like a painting coming together perfectly, each brushstroke in its right place. But Elena would soon learn that some paintings hide darkness beneath their beautiful surfaces. An uninvited discovery. The gallery was closed for the evening, but Elena had returned to pick up some contracts she needed to review. Her heels clicked against the polished wooden floors as she walked through the exhibition space. The new collection would launch next week, and everything needed to be perfect. She heard voices coming from her private office upstairs. Marcus's voice. But he was supposed to be in New York for a business meeting. Elena's heart lifted with excitement. Maybe he had come back early to surprise her. She climbed the stairs quietly, planning to surprise him instead. But as she reached the door, she heard a woman's laughter. A laugh she knew too well. Sophia Chan, her business partner and best friend since college. Elena's hand froze on the doorknob. Something in Sophia's tone made her stomach twist. She pushed the door open slowly, and her world exploded into 1,000 pieces. Marcus and Sophia were not just talking. They were wrapped in each other's arms, kissing with a passion that spoke of familiarity, not a first-time mistake. Papers were scattered across Elena's desk, and she recognized her own business documents among them. The cruel truth unfolds. Elena! Sophia jumped back, her face showing shock but not quite enough guilt. Marcus turned, his expression shifting from surprise to something colder, something calculating. How long? Elena's voice came out as a whisper, though she wanted to scream. Marcus straightened his tie, his handsome face showing no remorse. Does it matter? Elena, we need to talk about the gallery. About everything. Everything. Elena stepped into her own office, feeling like a stranger in the space she had built from nothing. Sophia picked up a folder from the desk, her hand steady. Elena, the gallery is drowning in debt. You've been so focused on the art, on your vision, that you haven't seen the financial reality. We've been trying to save it. By sleeping together? Elena's voice grew stronger, anger burning through her shock. Marcus moved closer, and Elena saw him clearly for the first time. The charming smile was gone, replaced by a cold businessman's expression. By making smart decisions. The gallery needs to be sold, Elena. I found a buyer. You'll get a small percentage after debts are paid. You can't sell my gallery. I built this place. Actually, Sophia pulled out more documents. I own 49%, remember? And with Marcus's investment last year, you're the minority owner now. The sale is already in motion. Elena felt the floor disappear beneath her feet. She remembered Marcus's generous investment, how he had insisted on taking a stake to help her expand. She had been so grateful, so blind. The fall from grace. The next 3 weeks passed in a nightmare blur. Elena discovered that Marcus had been planning this for over a year. He had manipulated her business decisions, encouraged expensive exhibitions that drained her resources, and slowly positioned himself to take control. Sophia had been his accomplice from the start, feeding him information about Elena's finances and plans. The gallery was sold to a corporation that planned to turn it into luxury condos. Elena's savings were gone, absorbed by debts she didn't know existed. Her apartment, which she had bought with money from the gallery's early success, had to be sold to pay creditors. Marcus married Sophia 3 weeks later in a lavish ceremony that was featured in society magazines. Elena saw the photos online, each one a knife to her heart. They looked so happy, so perfect, as if Elena had never existed. Meeting the stranger. Elena found herself in a cheap motel on the south side of Chicago, working double shifts at a coffee shop to pay rent. Her art world friends had vanished, unwilling to associate with someone who had failed. Her phone had stopped ringing. Her emails went unanswered. One rainy evening as she walked home from her shift, Elena noticed a man following her. She quickened her pace, but he called out, "Elena Martinez? I have information about Marcus Sterling." She turned. The man was tall, dressed in an expensive black coat that seemed out of place in this neighborhood. His face was striking, with sharp features and dark eyes that held shadows of their own pain. "Who are you?" Elena demanded, her hand clutching her pepper spray. "My name is Dante Moretti, and Marcus Sterling destroyed someone I loved too. I think we can help each other. ####, a dangerous proposition." They met at a quiet cafe the next morning. Dante ordered espresso and studied Elena with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. But she was desperate for answers. Desperate for anything that might explain why her life had collapsed. "Marcus has done this before," Dante said, sliding a folder across the table. Inside were photos and documents detailing Marcus's history. 3 other women, 3 other business takeovers, 3 other lives destroyed. "Why hasn't anyone stopped him?" Elena asked, her hands shaking as she looked through the evidence. "Because he's careful. He covers his tracks. And he has powerful friends who protect him." Dante leaned forward. "But he made a mistake with you, Elena. You're an artist. Artists see things differently. They notice details others miss. I think you saw things, documented things, without even realizing it." Elena thought about her journals, her sketches, the detailed notes she kept about gallery operations. "I have records. Contracts, emails, everything. But my lawyer said nothing there was illegal. Because you didn't know what to look for. But I do." Dante's eyes held a promise and a warning. "I can teach you. I can help you get everything back. But Elena, my world is dangerous. Once you step into it, there's no going back to who you were. ###, the choice that changes everything." Elena looked at the rain streaking down the cafe windows. She thought about Marcus and Sofia, probably sitting in her gallery right now, probably laughing about how easily they had fooled her. She thought about her dreams, her art, her life, all stolen by people she had trusted. "What do you want in return?" she asked. Dante smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I want Marcus to pay for what he did. Not just to you, but to someone I cared about. Her name was Isabella. She was my sister. Marcus's scheme 5 years ago destroyed her business and her reputation. She killed herself 6 months later." The cafe seemed to grow colder. Elena saw the rage buried beneath Dante's calm exterior, and she recognized it because she felt it too. "I want revenge," she said quietly. "No." Dante shook his head. "Revenge is messy and temporary. I'm offering you something better. Redemption. We build you back up stronger than before. We expose Marcus for what he really is. We make sure he can never do this to anyone else. And in the process, you reclaim your life." Elena picked up her coffee, her mind racing. This was crazy. Dante was a stranger, and his world sounded dangerous. But staying where she was, broken and defeated, felt like dying slowly. "What's the first step?" she asked. Dante's smile became genuine. "We start with your transformation. Marcus thinks you're destroyed. We'll let him think that while we prepare. You'll learn about his world, his business, his weaknesses. And when we're ready, we'll strike. ###, entering the shadows." That evening, Elena packed her few remaining belongings and left the motel. Dante took her to a different part of the city, to a penthouse that overlooked Lake Michigan. The space was elegant but cold, decorated in black and silver tones that reflected their owner's personality. "You'll stay here while we work," Dante said. "I have resources, connections. But you'll need to trust me completely." Elena walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Marcus was living in luxury built on her ruins. But not for long. "I trust you," she said, surprised to find it was partly true. Dante had suffered like her. He understood the burning need to make things right. "Good. Tomorrow we begin your education. You'll learn about finance, about the networks Marcus uses, about the people who enable him. You'll become someone he won't recognize until it's too late." As Elena unpacked in the guest room, she found a small sketchbook among her things. She opened it and began to draw, her hand moving across the page with purpose. She sketched flames consuming a gallery, a phoenix rising from ashes, and in the center, a woman who looked like her but stronger, fiercer. This was her origin story, she realized. Not the successful gallery owner with the perfect life. That had been an illusion. This was who she really was. Someone who could fall and choose to rise again. ####. The first lesson. The next morning, Dante woke her early. They sat in his study, surrounded by files and documents. Marcus's empire is built on fraud, Dante explained. He finds vulnerable business owners, gains their trust, and slowly takes control. He uses shell companies to hide money, fake investors to inflate his importance. Elena listened carefully, making notes. How do you know all this? Because I've been investigating him for 5 years. Since Isabella died. Dante's voice hardened. I've been waiting for the right moment, the right opportunity. You're that opportunity, Elena. You're the one who can get close enough to destroy him. I'm never getting close to Marcus again, Elena said firmly. You won't have to. But you'll be visible. You'll rebuild your reputation, your business. And Marcus won't be able to resist watching, waiting for you to fail again. His ego won't allow him to ignore you. And that's when we'll catch him. Elena felt something shift inside her. Fear was still there, but it was being burned away by determination. Teach me everything. For weeks Elena studied. She learned about corporate structures and money laundering. She discovered how Marcus manipulated people and markets. She saw patterns in his behavior, weaknesses in his armor. But more importantly, she began to transform. Dante hired trainers who taught her self-defense. He introduced her to people in Chicago's underground economy, who knew things lawyers and police didn't. Elena shed her old identity like a snake shedding skin. She cut her long hair into a sharp bob. She traded her colorful artist's clothes for sleek black outfits. She learned to speak with authority, to command a room with her presence. The heartbroken woman in the motel was disappearing, replaced by someone harder, smarter. #### Dangerous attraction. Working so closely with Dante, Elena began to see beyond his cold exterior. He was brilliant and ruthless, but he was also deeply wounded. His love for his sister had turned into an obsession with justice. In quiet moments, she saw him looking at Isabella's photo with an expression that broke her heart. One night, after a particularly intense planning session, Dante poured them both whiskey. You remind me of her, he said quietly. Isabella was an artist too. She saw beauty in everything, even when the world was ugly. What happened to her? Elena asked gently. Marcus convinced her to invest everything in a startup he was promoting. It was a scam. She lost her studio, her home, everything. But worse than that, he humiliated her publicly. Made it look like she was incompetent, greedy. Her reputation was destroyed. In our family, honor means everything. She couldn't live with the shame. Elena moved closer, placing her hand over his. We'll make this right. For both of us. Dante looked at her, and for the first time she saw vulnerability in his eyes. I'm using you, Elena. I need you to understand that. You're a tool for my revenge. And you're a tool for mine, she replied. Maybe that's enough for now. The air between them changed, charged with something neither wanted to acknowledge. They were bound by pain and purpose, but beneath that, something else was growing. Something that could either save them or destroy them completely. ###. The plan takes shape. After 3 months of preparation, Elena was ready for the next phase. Dante had helped her secure seed funding from his contacts, enough to start rebuilding. She would open a new gallery, smaller but in a prestigious location. She would make noise, get attention, remind the art world that Elena Martinez wasn't finished. Marcus will hear about it, Dante said. He'll be curious. He might even try to sabotage you. Let him try, Elena said, and she meant it. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was armed with knowledge, with resources, and with allies. More importantly, she was armed with purpose. As Elena stood on the threshold of her new beginning, she looked back at the woman she had been. That Elena had believed in love and trust and happy endings. This Elena knew better. She knew that sometimes you had to walk through fire to become strong enough to hold it in your hands. The game was beginning. Marcus had no idea what was coming. And by the time he realized Elena Martinez was more than just a woman he had destroyed, it would be too late. The ashes of her old life had given birth to something new. Something dangerous. Something unstoppable. End of part 1. Welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe for part 2, where Elena's revenge begins to take shape and dangerous secrets start to surface. Comment below if you're Team Elena. Hashtag burning for redemption. Hashtag part 2 flames of revenge. Hashtag the gallery reopens. 6 months after her world collapsed, Elena stood in front of her new gallery. The space was smaller than her old one, but it occupied a prime corner in Chicago's Gold Coast neighborhood. The sign above the door read Phoenix Gallery, in elegant gold letters. Dante stood beside her, observing the crowd gathering for the opening night. "Are you ready for this?" he asked. Elena adjusted her black dress, feeling the weight of designer heels she had once worn without thinking. Now every piece of clothing was armor, every accessory a weapon in her war. "I was born ready." The gallery opening was a calculated strike. Elena had used Dante's connections to secure works from artists Marcus had overlooked, talents he had dismissed. The collection was stunning, provocative, and it made a statement. Elena Martinez was back, and she was better than before. Guests flooded in, champagne flowed, and Elena worked the room with practiced grace. She saw former colleagues who had abandoned her, and she greeted them with cool professionalism that made them squirm. She knew they would report back to Marcus. She was counting on it. "Elena Martinez, I heard rumors you were finished." The voice came from behind her, smooth and familiar. She turned to face Thomas Blackwood, Marcus's business partner and closest friend. He was tall, silver-haired, and dangerous in ways Marcus could never be. Dante had warned her about Thomas. "Rumors of my death were greatly exaggerated," Elena said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Thomas studied her with interest. "You look different. Harder. Losing everything will do that to a person." Elena sipped her champagne. "But I've learned that what doesn't kill you makes you dangerous." Hashtag playing with fire. The gallery's success exceeded expectations. Within weeks, Elena was being featured in art magazines and blogs. Critics praised her eye for emerging talent. Collectors competed for pieces. The art world was buzzing with her comeback story. But Elena knew the real work was happening behind the scenes. Every night after the gallery closed, she met with Dante in his penthouse. They pored over documents, traced money trails, and built their case against Marcus. "He's using 3 shell companies in the Cayman Islands," Dante explained, pointing to a complex chart on his wall. "Money goes in from his real estate deals, gets laundered through fake investments, and comes out clean. He's been doing this for years." Elena studied the connections, seeing patterns she had missed before. "These investments here, these are the ones he used to trap his victims. Including me. And including Isabella." Dante's jaw tightened. He promised her a 40% return in 6 months. It was impossible, but she believed him because everyone else seemed to be making money. "They were early investors getting paid with money from later victims," Elena said, understanding dawning. "It's a Ponzi scheme dressed up as legitimate investing." "Exactly. And we're going to prove it." Dante pulled up another file. "But we need someone on the inside. Someone who can access his actual financial records." Elena's mind raced. "Sophia. She's managing his portfolio now. She has access to everything. Can you get to her?" Elena thought about her former best friend, the woman who had betrayed her so completely. "Yes. But it won't be pleasant." Hashtag confronting the past. Elena arranged to meet Sophia at an upscale restaurant, claiming she wanted closure. Sophia arrived late, dripping in diamonds Elena recognized as pieces Marcus had once promised to her. "You look good," Sophia said, settling into her chair with false warmth. "I heard about your little gallery. It's cute." Elena smiled, keeping her rage carefully hidden. "It's doing well. Better than expected, actually. I'm glad you've moved on." Sophia ordered the most expensive wine on the menu. "I was worried about you after everything." "Were you?" Elena leaned forward. "Worried enough to call? To explain why you betrayed 15 years of friendship?" Sophia's mask slipped slightly. "Elena, you need to understand. Marcus and I didn't plan for this to happen. We fell in love. These things occur. Love. Elena tasted the word like poison. Is that what you call systematically destroying someone's life? Because Dante Moretti has shown me exactly how you and Marcus orchestrated everything. The color drained from Sophia's face. You're working with Dante Moretti? Elena, do you have any idea who that man is? I know exactly who he is. Just like I know exactly what you and Marcus are doing. Elena slid a folder across the table. Inside were copies of documents Dante had obtained, showing Sophia's involvement in Marcus's schemes. Sophia's hands shook as she looked through them. Where did you get these? It doesn't matter. What matters is that I have them. And unless you want to go to prison alongside Marcus, you're going to help me. I can't betray Marcus. He'll destroy me. Elena laughed, a cold sound that made nearby diners glance over. Sophia, he's already destroying you. You're so deep in his schemes that when he goes down, you go with him. Unless you cut a deal first. #### the web titans. Sophia agreed to help, motivated more by fear than loyalty. She began feeding Elena information about Marcus's operations, copies of emails and financial statements that proved his fraud. But Elena noticed something strange in the documents. There were transactions involving someone named V. Sterling. Large sums moving through accounts in Switzerland. Who is V. Sterling? She asked Dante one night. Dante's expression darkened. Victoria Sterling. Marcus's mother. She's the real brains behind the operation. Marcus is just the front man. This revelation changed everything. Elena realized they weren't just fighting Marcus, but an entire family enterprise built on fraud and manipulation. We need more evidence, Dante said. Evidence that ties Victoria directly to the schemes. That's the only way to bring down the entire operation. Elena paced his study, her mind working through possibilities. Victoria is hosting a charity gala next month. All of Chicago's elite will be there. If we could get into her home office during the event. That's too dangerous, Dante objected. Security will be everywhere. Then we'll need a distraction. Elena turned to him, her eyes bright with determination. What if Marcus thinks I'm there to win him back? He's arrogant enough to believe it. #### dangerous games. Planning the gala infiltration consumed the next 3 weeks. Elena would attend as a legitimate guest, using her renewed reputation to secure an invitation. Dante would coordinate a team to hack Victoria's security system. And Sophia, reluctantly, would create a diversion to draw guards away from Victoria's office. But as the plan came together, Elena found herself spending more time with Dante. Their late-night strategy sessions sometimes ended with shared meals, conversations that drifted from revenge to memories, from pain to hopes for the future. One evening, after too much wine and too many hours reviewing documents, Dante reached for Elena's hand. When this is over, what will you do? Elena looked at their intertwined fingers, feeling the warmth of his touch. I don't know. I haven't thought past destroying Marcus. That worries me. Dante moved closer. Revenge is a fire that burns everything, including the person carrying it. I've been burning for 5 years, Elena. I don't want that for you. Then why are we doing this? Because some fires are necessary. They clear away the rot so something new can grow. He cupped her face gently. But you have to know when to let the fire go out. Their kiss was inevitable. A collision of two people drawn together by shared pain and purpose. But beneath the passion was something deeper. Something that scared them both because it meant they had more to lose than just their revenge. #### the night of truth. The Sterling Charity Gala was everything Elena expected. Excessive, showy, and filled with Chicago's wealthy and powerful. She arrived in a stunning red dress, her hair swept up, diamonds glittering at her throat. She looked like the woman Marcus had tried to destroy, but she felt like someone entirely different. Marcus spotted her immediately. He crossed the ballroom with Sophia on his arm, his expression a mixture of surprise and calculation. Elena, what a surprise. His smile was predatory. I didn't know you moved in these circles anymore. I've rediscovered my place in the world, Elena said smoothly. Congratulations on your marriage, by the way. I'm sure you'll be very happy. Marcus studied her, trying to understand her game. You seem different. Less broken. Oh, I was broken, Marcus. Shattered, actually. But broken things can be reforged into something stronger. Elena glanced at Sophia, who looked pale and uncomfortable. Don't you think, Sophia? Before anyone could respond, a commotion erupted across the ballroom. Someone had accidentally knocked over a champagne tower, sending crystal glasses crashing to the floor. Security rushed to handle the situation. Elena used the distraction to slip away from Marcus, heading toward the private areas of the Sterling mansion. Her earpiece crackled with Dante's voice. Security cameras are on loop. You have 10 minutes. Victoria Sterling's office was everything Elena expected. Elegant, cold, and filled with evidence of decades of manipulation. Elena pulled out a small device Dante had given her, plugging it into Victoria's computer. Files began downloading automatically. She rifled through desk drawers, photographing documents with her phone. Bank statements, contracts, emails detailing fraudulent schemes going back 20 years. Victoria hadn't just enabled Marcus, she had taught him everything. 5 minutes, Dante warned in her ear. Elena found a locked drawer and picked it quickly, revealing a leather journal. She flipped through pages of Victoria's handwriting, documenting every scheme, every victim, including Isabella Moretti. Her hands shook as she photographed the pages. This was it. This was the evidence that would destroy them all. Someone's coming. Dante's voice was urgent. Get out now. Elena grabbed the USB drive and slipped out of the office, her heart pounding. She made it to the hallway just as a security guard rounded the corner. Lost? He asked, suspicious. The ladies' room, Elena said with an embarrassed smile. These old mansions are like mazes. He pointed her in the right direction, watching until she disappeared around the corner. Elena's legs felt weak, but she kept moving, making her way back to the ballroom. Marcus was waiting near the entrance. Where did you go? I told you. Ladies' room. Elena met his eyes steadily. Why, Marcus? Were you hoping I'd leave so you could relax? I'm perfectly relaxed. But his eyes were hard. Though I wonder what you're really doing here, Elena. This sudden comeback, this confidence, it doesn't feel like you. Maybe you never really knew me. Elena stepped closer, her voice dropping. You saw a naive artist who you could manipulate. But I've learned from the best. You taught me everything I needed to know about betrayal and survival. The unraveling begins. The evidence Elena and Dante gathered was devastating. They turned it over to federal investigators who had been building their own case against Marcus. With the new information, they could finally move forward. But Elena underestimated Victoria Sterling. The matriarch was more connected and more ruthless than anyone realized. Within days of the gala, Dante's penthouse was broken into. Nothing was stolen, but the message was clear. They were being watched. We need to be more careful, Dante said, checking the security footage that showed professionals who knew how to avoid cameras. Or we need to move faster, Elena countered. If Victoria knows we're onto her, she'll disappear. She has the resources to vanish and take everything with her. Their argument was interrupted by Elena's phone. It was Sophia, her voice panicked. Elena, Marcus knows I've been helping you. He's threatening to kill me. Please, you have to help. Elena's blood ran cold. Where are you? I'm at our old gallery. The one you lost. Please hurry. Elena looked at Dante, seeing her own fear reflected in his eyes. It's a trap. Of course it's a trap, Elena agreed. But Sophia is still in danger. Whatever she's done, I can't just abandon her. Then we go together. And we go prepared. Into the trap. The old Rivera gallery looked exactly as Elena remembered, but emptier, sadder. The lights were off, and shadows filled the space where her dreams had once lived. Sophia! Elena called out, Dante close behind her. A single spotlight illuminated the center of the gallery. Sophia stood there, tears streaming down her face, and beside her stood Marcus holding a gun. I'm sorry, Sophia whispered. I'm so sorry, Elena. Marcus smiled. The charming mask finally dropped to reveal the monster beneath. Did you really think you could destroy me, Elena? You and your pet gangster. Dante's not a gangster, Elena said. Her voice steady despite her fear. No? Then what do you call a man who has killed 6 people in his quest for revenge? Marcus's eyes glittered with malicious pleasure. Did he tell you that, Elena? Did he mention that his obsession with me has turned him into a murderer? Elena glanced at Dante, seeing the truth in his face. Her stomach twisted, but she pushed the feeling aside. Whatever Dante has done, it doesn't change what you are. A fraud. A con man. A destroyer of lives. Strong words from a woman who's about to die. Marcus raised the gun. But before he could fire, the gallery flooded with light. Federal agents poured in from every entrance, weapons drawn. Marcus Sterling, you're under arrest for fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy, an agent announced. Marcus's face twisted with rage and disbelief. He turned to Sophia. You did this. No, Elena stepped forward. I did this. The meeting with Sophia was recorded. Your confession just now was recorded. And in about 5 minutes, federal agents will be arresting your mother at her home. It's over, Marcus. As agents handcuffed Marcus and led him away, his eyes bore into Elena with pure hatred. You'll regret this. My family has connections. You'll never be safe. I stopped being safe the day I trusted you, Elena replied. Now I'm just done. #### the aftermath. In the days following Marcus's arrest, Chicago's news was dominated by the Sterling family scandal. Victoria was indeed arrested, and their investigation revealed decades of fraud affecting hundreds of victims. Marcus and Victoria would face multiple life sentences. Sophia cut a deal with prosecutors, agreeing to testify in exchange for a reduced sentence. She would serve 5 years for her role in the schemes. Before she was taken to prison, she met with Elena one last time. I don't expect forgiveness, Sophia said. But I want you to know that I did love you. Marcus made me believe I was in love with him, but I think I was really just in love with the idea of being powerful, of winning. You lost everything to learn that lesson, Elena said quietly. So did you. But you came back stronger. I'm not sure I will. As Sophia was led away, Elena felt an unexpected pang of sadness. They had been friends once, real friends, before ambition and manipulation destroyed everything. Dante found her standing outside the federal building, watching the city move past with indifferent momentum. It's done, he said. Is it? Elena turned to face him. Marcus told me you killed people. Is that true? Dante didn't flinch from her gaze. Yes. In my search for justice, I became something I'm not proud of. I told myself I was avenging Isabella, but really I was just feeding my own rage. And now I'm tired. Dante looked older suddenly, worn down by 5 years of hatred. I have Isabella's justice. Marcus will pay for what he did. But it doesn't bring her back. It doesn't heal anything. Elena understood. The revenge she had sought so desperately felt hollow now that she had it. Marcus was destroyed, but she didn't feel victorious. She felt empty. What do we do now? She asked. Dante took her hand. We decide if we can be more than our pain. If we can build something from the ashes instead of just burning in them. End of part 2. The flames of revenge have consumed Marcus, but at what cost? Stay tuned for part 3. Phoenix Rising, where Elena must choose between holding on to her anger or finding true redemption. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Burning for Redemption. Part 3 Phoenix Rising. The Emptiness of Victory. 3 months after Marcus Sterling's arrest, Elena sat in her Phoenix gallery surrounded by success she couldn't fully enjoy. The space was thriving, her reputation restored, but something felt wrong. She had won the war, but she felt like she'd lost herself in the battle. Dante had distanced himself after the arrests, claiming he needed time to process everything. Elena understood. They had bonded over revenge, but now that the revenge was complete, they didn't know who they were to each other. Elena threw herself into her work, curating exhibitions and discovering new artists. But at night, alone in her apartment, she felt the weight of what she had become. The woman who had entered Victoria's office and stolen documents. The woman who had manipulated Sophia. The woman who had used Marcus's arrogance against him. She had won by becoming like them. The realization hit her one evening as she reviewed her gallery's financial statements. She was making more money than ever, but she was using the same aggressive tactics Marcus had taught her. Pushing artists to accept unfavorable contracts, manipulating buyers with artificial scarcity, playing the game exactly as he had. "I'm becoming him," she whispered to her empty apartment. A ghost from the past. The next morning, Elena received an unexpected visitor at the gallery. A woman in her 60s, elegantly dressed, with kind eyes that seemed to see through Elena's carefully constructed facade. "Elena Martinez? My name is Catherine Moretti. I'm Dante's mother."